Hello everyone and welcome to another Bookmas video. Today we're going to talk about the library books I managed to snatch at the library the evening before it closed again because of Corona until the 3rd of January.
Whoa, oh, oh. La, da, 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 oh, oh, oh. La, da, 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 oh, oh, oh. La, da, da, da. Making our Christmas memories.
So I went to return some books and then I was like, I cannot leave without picking up some other ones because it's gonna close from tomorrow. I couldn't really browse because everything was closed off. All they had was some table with some books. So I managed to snatch up 7. Okay, yeah, well, you might call that excessive, but I blame it on the panic. Not that I'm lacking physical books, which I haven't read from my TBR. Anyway, let me show you the books I picked up. So I kind of grouped them in categories. Let me see what I have here. I have some romances. I have a nonfiction about women. And then I have 3 kind of coming of age stories, but also debut novels. So yeah, interesting bunch. And the first one, I think, and the one I'm gonna pick up first, even though I've seen some negative reviews on Goodreads, but I'm not gonna let that deter me. The Recipe for Persuasion by Sonali Dev. And this one, as the title suggests, is a retelling of Persuasion by Jane Austen. And I think I've read some retellings of Pride and Prejudice before, and I mentioned the retelling of Mary from Pride and Prejudice also in the previous video. I'll link for you with my cozy winter recommendations. But I think maybe this one is also gonna be one of those cozy reads to pick up in the wintertime if you really like romances, and especially if you like Jane Austen. So apparently this one follows a young woman who's kind of like, she has a restaurant, and the restaurant is kind of not going so well. Things are not going well at the restaurant, so she's trying everything to kind of like keep the business floating. And then she enters this competition, Cooking with the Stars, where she's teamed up with one of her old flames. So I wonder where that will go. I've never read a book which is focused around cooking and restaurants, so I'm curious to see where that will go. But I think it's gonna be funny, and I think it's gonna be nice and cozy and perfect for me. So I am hoping I'm gonna like this one despite the negative reviews on Goodreads. Next, I have 2 romances again, and these are also classics. One is actually one I didn't hear of before, and the author either, but apparently it is the author's best known, most popular book. And it is The French Lieutenant's Woman by John Fowles. Apparently this is set in the Victorian time, and it is about the love story of this gentleman who kind of falls in love with this woman who is kind of disgraced for some reason, and how their relationship is and how their relationship develops, especially because of this woman's circumstances and because of all the conventions of the Victorian era. So I have actually really don't know anything else about this, but I'm looking forward to it. And the next one I have is A Sicilian Romance by Anne Radcliffe. I don't know anything about Anne Radcliffe, but I've heard a lot about her. She's kind of, okay, what I know about her is like she's kind of like the one who kind of made these gothic novels famous. That's what she's kind of known for. And I think she's referenced in a lot of historical fiction classic books. I definitely read a lot of historical romance where she's referenced. She's also referenced in Jane Austen's books. So I think she was quite popular at her time, and also quite scandalous, I believe. And this is set in Sicily, and we follow 2 girls who kind of live in this secluded house. And then their father comes home, and just there's just some kind of haunting in this house in like like in every respectable Gothic novel. So I don't know, but it's also about the society and the aristocracy. Then I have a non-fiction I really don't know a lot about, but like the title really pulled me in. And it is Paradise Beneath Her Feet, How Women Are Transforming the Middle East by Isobel Coleman. So I think it's basically the title which made me want to pick this up. And as far as I know, and I read from the description, this is basically takes you through different countries in the Middle East and looks at the feminist movements there and how women are fighting for equality and their rights in these countries. Because what we mostly know about these countries is that women don't have equal rights. Women are really don't have a voice, and we really don't see, here in the West at least, we really don't see any progress being made in these countries. But I guess a lot of things are happening there, and I think this will give me a great insight into specific women who are fighting for the cause, but also an overall picture of each of these countries and what's happening there. So I'm quite excited to get to this, and I hope it's not going to be too heavy. I don't think it's going to be, but yeah, it's not even that long, 300 pages. And then we come to the 3 debuts, and these are also kind of like coming of age stories. And yeah, I think I'm going to love all of these. I mean, they all sound great, and they're kind of pretty known. At least 2 of them I heard a lot about on BookTube. And one of them is Everything Under by Daisy Johnson. And I tried to read about the premise and what this book is about, but it's so vague. And I think maybe it's meant so you don't really know a lot about it going in. I think that's the point. But I think you also kind of spoil it if you read like a really detailed description of what this book is about. So basically, we follow a mother and daughter and how they grew up on this boat, and then the mother disappears, and then kind of like the daughter tries to figure out what's happening or what happened in the past. Sounds interesting, very vague, so this can go both ways, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. It was also shortlisted for the Man Booker. I'm not sure if this is the one who won it, but it seems like it's a good one and a great literary debut as well. Then I have one from an author. I have other books on my TBR of this author that I was thinking of reading first, but when I saw this at the library, I was like, okay, this is gonna be it. And it is Sag Harbor by Colson Whitehead. I've never heard of this book by this author. I've heard of 2 other books by the author, The Nickel Boys and The Underground Railroad. I think this is one of the earlier novels by this author. This one, we follow Benji in the summer of 1985. Benji is kind of at school, in this really elite school in Manhattan, so he is kind of in a very like elite environment at school and during the school year. But when it's summer, he goes to Sag Harbor, where he's surrounded by a whole different set of characters, a different community completely. And this is how the summer goes for Benji, because he's in such a different environment from what he's used to. Yeah, he's trying to figure out who he is and how he fits into these 2 completely different worlds. And then I have one more coming of age story, and this is The Miseducation of Cameron Post by Emily M. Danforth. This one is one of those stories which I think everyone kind of recommends also on BookTube, because we follow a young girl. She discovers she's gay just when her mother dies, and then she goes to live with relatives, an aunt and a grandmother who are very conservative and very strict. And she kind of tries to figure out who she is while in this really restrictive environment where she cannot really express herself. These are all the books I have from the library. I think, considering my limited options, I picked up some really great and interesting stories. Let me look at them. I'm especially interested in, I think I would I don't know why. I just feel like something light and fluffy. So I think I'm going to pick this one up first, as I already said. But all of these books sound interesting. So let me know if you have read any of these or have heard about these. Have you heard of Sag Harbor by Colson Whitehead? I feel like his newest books is what people talk about, and I've never heard about this. But thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.
Making our Christmas memories.